Hi everyone, this is Lisette Alvarez. I wanted to start off the second part of The Seamstress Who Wove the Moon by thanking those who reached out after the premiere of the last episode. I really appreciate all your kind words and your support. This is, as I have said, a labor of love, and I'm really grateful to have people like you in this community. So, without further ado, here's the second part of The Seamstress Who Wove the Moon. Hello, darling. Are you ready for your debut? I have been waiting. My debut? Oh, don't get modest on me now. We both know you've never been modest. Come, follow me. They're waiting. The crowd faded in, music and dancing swirling around them. Oh, she's here. Congratulations, your work is inspiring. Truly magnificent, isn't she? I am a lucky woman. The seamstress was guided through the crowd, inside the huge dowager's mansion. Along the walls hung some of her favorite pieces she sewed in the past year under her uncle's tutelage. There was a band playing, wearing what appeared to be dresses she had only dreamed of creating when she was a child. And do you like it? Why are all these people here? For you, obviously. For dressing the best and the brightest, it requires the best and the brightest. They are all wondering what your next art will be and who will be the lucky one to wear it. Promise it will be me for our wedding. I thought you weren't coming back after your aunt passed away. Well, it seems like I can't stop coming back for you. The seamstress was about to fall back into her beau's arms when she was jolted awake by a loud burst of barking outside her window. The sun had dipped well below the horizon, and the seamstress knew she needed to dress once more for a long night of work. Her bones did not want to rise, however, the pull of gravity as strong as the first time she laid hands on that spool of moonbeam. This time, when the steward arrived after everyone else had left, the seamstress decided to ask more questions. She let them in and showed them her progress. The steward ran their hand over the shining pattern snaking up the hem like ivy. What did you mean last night, asking after my dreams? The steward's hand paused. You had more. Yes. They will end once you complete the piece, or rather, they will become normal dreams. Don't think about it too much. Is it the thread? Yes, which is why you should continue wearing your gloves. Here is the next spool. You are doing good work. The steward left with no more real answers than when they had arrived. The seamstress huffed and decided to just get back to work. Perhaps the sooner she finished the spool, the sooner she could return home, to her bed. Over the days and nights, the moon shrank further into a crescent. Each night, the seamstress wove the moon into the cloak. Each morning, the seamstress would fall into a deep sleep and dream of those who loved and left her. They would be different fantasies, where they had chosen to stay, chosen to bring her with them, chosen to love her, chosen to support her. She was surrounded with love, with community, with satisfaction in her art, things she saw disappear as soon as she opened her eyes. Every evening, the seamstress would awake feeling emptier than she had before. The cloak was being made with great care and greater expense, and the seamstress couldn't help but resent it. It was being made for someone special, obviously, this liege or perhaps their lover. As the moon waned, the seamstress's resentment grew. The steward arrived, as always, with a new spool of thread and a new compliment about her work. Sometimes they would ask about her dreams, but the seamstress refused to speak about them. She only told the steward that she knew they were only dreams. She did not tell them she was beginning to sense that they were something more, something powerful. Finally, the night before the new moon, the cloak was close to being complete. The steward arrived at the same time they always did, just before midnight. The seamstress was finishing the intricate beading and needlework along the hood. She only needed one more spool, one more night of work, one more dream. My liege will be leaving tomorrow at midnight. I will only have time to pick up the completed cloak and leave the final payment before we must depart. The seamstress assured the steward that she would be finished by dawn, in time for the thread to be used up and the cloak to be ready to be picked up the following evening. The steward thanked her and left her with the final spool. The seamstress got to work, pulling the moonbeam through simple pearls and gems. The push and pull calmed her nerves, but allowed her mind to drift. She wanted to be back in her dreams. This is the closest she could feel asleep without actually closing her eyes. Dawn was approaching, and the spool of thread was nearly gone. She was so focused on finishing the last stitch of embroidery that she lost track of her fingers. Ow! Stupid. The needle had pierced through her thin gloves and pricked her finger. With a jerk, she snapped the thread. She moved her work away to peel off her gloves. In the process, however, a droplet of her blood touched the remaining thread of moonbeam, and the first rays of the sun broke through the windows. The seamstress waited to watch the final spiral of thread disappear with the dawn, but to her surprise, it did not. It laid there, wrapped around the mostly empty spool, glowing and enticing, pulling at her like a gravity well. Finished then? Good. Go get your rest, girl. When will the client pick up the order, and what was the final payment on that again? The seamstress quickly snatched the spool away from her uncle's sight and stuffed it into her pocket. She answered his questions and made her excuses to leave the shop and head home. Once she was inside her bedroom, she pulled out the spool once more. Bare-handed and with aching heart, she stared at the stolen piece of moon. Her body yearned to fall into her dreams, but the seamstress knew she still needed to awake once more and hand over the cloak to the steward, or else she would raise suspicion. So it was with great effort that she stashed the spool on the opposite side of her little apartment, underneath the stove, and returned to her bed. The excitement should have kept her up, but the magic of the moon was even stronger now, tied to her and close to her, even in the midday sun. The seamstress fell into darkness and found herself walking along a path inlaid with black and white stone. An earthly incense drew her forward, and she crossed into a mist. Upward the path led, and the black and white stone fell away to moss, soft under her bare feet. Upward she climbed, through mist in a strange and quiet forest. Finally, the mist thinned enough for her to see a bridge over a gently trickling stream. Over the bridge hung the tiniest sliver of moon.
"What do you seek, traveler?"
Excuse me, I didn't see you down there. The animal with reddish fur, a raccoon and a dog all at once, seemed to scowl at her, but they seemed inclined to repeat themselves.
"What do you seek, traveler?"
This isn't a trick question, is it?
"What do you seek, traveler?"
My one true love.
"Oi! Horace! We got the one for the king!"
A lobster climbed up onto the bank of the stream. "Already?" The lobster looked at the moon. It's too early. He should be back tomorrow."
"It's too early. He should be ready tomorrow."
The king? Do you mean the king of the moon? Was he the one who commissioned the cloak?
"Yeah. What do you think the cloak was for? It's a dowry, and everyone knows you need a thread of moonbeam to get you to the castle."
The seamstress caught her breath. A cloak in exchange for marrying the king of the moon? How could it be possible? But of course, it made sense. All of those dreams, all of those past lovers, they didn't seem quite as she remembered them. It must have been the king of the moon, showing her the many worlds she would be a part of if she could simply prove herself worthy. It was a test, showing her the depths of his love by showing himself in the mask of her lovers. Without hesitation, the seamstress turned and ran back into the mist, heading back into the world of reality one more time. She needed to make sure the cloak got back to him, and to use the remaining bit of thread to get to the castle herself. Quick one, isn't she?
Horace, I completely forgot.
Forgot what?
We were supposed to tell her thank you for her services and apologize for the decline in magical dreams after she drops off the cloak.
Who told us that?
The king's betrothed, of course. She told us just before she sent off the steward. Honestly, Horace, do I have to remember everything?
I'm a construct of the collective subconscious, who's to say? Meanwhile, the seamstress was fighting back the last dregs of sleep. The imprint of the white and black stone path remained in the back of her mind, and she forced herself upright. The night had fallen, and the sky was only illuminated by stars. It was the night of the new moon. When the seamstress arrived at the store, the steward was waiting outside the shop. Their face was set in a polite smile as usual, if perhaps a little sad. "I'm sorry I'm late. Don't worry, the cloak is done. Here, let me show you." "No rush. The night is still young. I just wanted to make sure everything is to your liege's satisfaction." The seamstress opened the cabinet, and a flutter of fabric is heard as the seamstress hung it onto display. Wow, that, it will certainly be to my liege's satisfaction. Oh, good. My liege is grateful for your dedication to this work. It was taxing, was it not? No more than any other complicated order. Still, I wanted to pass along this. The steward dropped a heavy coin bag onto the table. What? This is more than double the price agreed. Yes, like I said, I'm sure it was taxing. My uncle will be pleased, at least. Oh no. This bonus is for you. I insist. You insist? It's no good asking you to leave behind your dreams without the resources to make new ones. The seamstress stared at the steward in confusion. Were they not aware that the cloak was a promise of marriage? Maybe the king did not let them know. Maybe the not knowing allowed them to be a part of the test. Oh well, I'd best be off. The seamstress helped the steward fold and carefully pack the cloak into a bag for protection. As she escorted them out into the night, she gave them a smile. The steward had been kind to her, after all, and it was nice to see someone appreciative of her work without the question of romance hanging over her head for once. Will you and your liege be leaving tonight? Yes. After this visit, there's much to do back home. Well, in that case, safe journeys. Thank you. It's been lovely watching your work. Meeting you. I do wish you all the best. I'm sure more will recognize your talent soon. The steward bowed to her, and before she had a chance to thank them for their kindness, walked out of sight. The seamstress shook off her daze and locked the shop behind her. She needed to get back into bed. Once back home, the seamstress pulled the moonbeam from its hiding place. It was still as brightly shining as the night before. But how should she properly use it? She was too excited to fall asleep, certainly. As an experiment, the seamstress wrapped the strand around her finger and instantly fell into the void. fluttering, and then stillness. Tittering and music. Whispers. Who is she? I thought the audience was closed for the wedding preparations. My liege, were you expecting visitors? You only just came back. Silence! Who are you? The seamstress stood from where she had landed, shaking and eyes blurred. She rubbed them as if rubbing sleep from her eyes. She was surrounded by white stone and sand. The sky yawned above her, glittering with stars. A throne was set into rock before her, and upon it sat a being who could only be the Moon King. Her cloak, woven with moonbeams, hung from his shoulders. The seamstress felt the same pull of the thread towards him. Her breath caught in her throat, but she attempted to pass this riddle the king had asked. Who am I? I am your betrothed? Betrothed? No, you are not. I am the Moon King's betrothed. Part 3 of The Seamstress Who Wove the Moon will premiere soon. Thank you for listening.